How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Always Out of Market NFL podcast. We got a special episode that we're going to do today. You've got me, Steven. You got the Seahawks fan, Ryan, and the star of today's episode, the Denver Broncos fan, Jason. So what we're going to do today, and we're going to go through and do everybody on the podcast, but starting with Jason, we're going to go through our teams, talk about kind of why we became a fan of that particular team, and then we're going to do kind of a breakdown of this previous season, and then, of course, this off-season, how we feel about this upcoming season. So, Jason, how you feeling today, buddy?
Well, I'm not crying, so pretty good.
You know, it's probably better that we waited, because if we had done this during the season, you would have been kind of in turmoil, I guess.
If you want Jason in a happy mood for a Denver Broncos season, you got to do it in the off-season at this point.
Or during that 5-game winning streak, which we'll talk about that.
Exactly. That one 5-game winning streak they're going to have, and then get him right at the end of that, right before his hopes get shattered.
Yeah.
Well, so to start off, the first thing I wanted to talk about is, of course, we're not going to go far enough back, and God, I know you don't want to talk about it. Of course, the season before that, y'all had Nathaniel Hackett as your head coach. The biggest thing that happened this season was y'all had your first year with Sean Payton as your head coach. So the first thing I wanted to ask you about Sean Payton is, do you still feel like even now it was a good hire? And do you think the what y'all gave up to the Saints to make the trade for him was worth it?
Well, I still think it's a good hire, but at the same time, he's only been our coach for one season, and so I don't really know if it was worth what we gave up to the Saints for it, because it was a first-round pick. Granted, it was somebody else's first-round pick anyway, so it was not like our primary pick, but we still had, a first-round pick for it. And his first season, he had a losing record. He went 8-9. That being said, he didn't have a good team, so to almost have a winning record, I'll take it in his first season with the team that we had. And unfortunately, right now it looks like he's probably going to have a worse record in his second season because of all of the destruction that we've done to the roster.
Hey, honestly, you never know. You never know, Jason. That's the thing is, we talked about it yesterday, is there's always a team that'll surprise you. And there will be both ways. There will be a team that is so much worse than you expect, and then there'll be a team that just comes out of nowhere and is really good. I think, I don't know about y'all, but the teams that I immediately think of with this last season is the Texans being incredible. And they still just barely made the playoffs, but from going from the second overall pick to what they did, incredible. And then the Giants is the other team. The Giants were good the year before, and then they tanked. So anyway, I'm saying maybe hold on to hope, because maybe the Broncos will surprise some people this year.
I mean, I'm going to hold on to hope for a little bit at least, but my expectations are pretty low for the season, and I'm doing that on purpose so that I'm not that disappointed if we do bad, and then I'll be surprised if we do better than I expect.
I mean, when was y'all's last winning season?
When we won the Super Bowl.
Exactly. So it's like, at least at this point, you're fucking. I feel like your expectations should be at the fucking floor every season until you break that. That way you'll never be disappointed.
So a few days ago, went through our schedule for this season, and I predicted in my head 5 wins. So my expectations are pretty low.
Yeah, that's reasonable. Do you, obviously you probably don't have it ready. Do you know what y'all's betting over under is?
It's 4.5.
See, I mean, I feel like that's still, why would you not bet the over on that? Just, you're just wishing for like the worst season ever if you take the under on something like that. But anyway, it's great that Ryan asked about when was y'all's last winning season, because we always joke about you haven't been happy in years. So kind of got ahead of myself there a minute ago. Let's back up for a second. So when did you truly become a fan of the Denver Broncos?
So, because I knew you were going to ask this right before we started recording, I looked it up. It was December 26th, 2010, and it was the Texans versus the Broncos. The Texans went up 17-0 at halftime, and I was like, you know what? I want the Broncos to come back and win that game, and they did. They came back and won 24-23 at the end, and ever since then, that's just been the team that I've pulled for.
I appreciate that, knowing that y'all beat the Texans too. Good job.
Even though you didn't even know who the Texans were in 2010.
Not then, no. But knowing what I know now, I'm a big fan. So, yeah, it's common knowledge in here that I'm definitely the newest fan of the NFL. You know, I was a very casual watcher, and I did watch that season, and I did like the Broncos back then. I wouldn't consider myself a fan of them exactly, but, you know, I remember that Super Bowl season, and because one of my best friends, Justin, is a Panthers fan, and I remember his whole family was rooting for the Panthers in that Super Bowl, and they were like, "You gonna come over and watch it with us and root for the Panthers?" And I was like, kind of rooting for Peyton Manning and the Broncos. Sorry. And after that game, Justin texted me and was like, "I hate you so much." Mm-hmm. Anyway, but yeah, so it was that game. Was there any particular like player back then that you still like love to watch like highlight reels for, like one of your favorite players back in the earlier seasons of the Broncos for you?
I don't go back and watch highlights from back then at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't really name off very many players that were on the team back then. The biggest one, the most notable one that I can think of immediately is Tim Tebow. He was the quarterback for that game. So I liked Tim Tebow back then because he had just come out of college from Florida, and back then I was really into college football, and I was an Alabama fan. So we played against Tim Tebow pretty much every year in the SEC championship while he was in college. And so I watched him play a lot. And then he went to my, future team. So I guess it kind of worked out like that. But as far as like highlights and stuff, I'll go back and within the last year, probably I've rewatched that Super Bowl against the Panthers in full.
Yeah. I still think, you watch that game highlights, and obviously, like, Peyton Manning was not good in that game. Honestly, neither quarterback was very good in that game. But
nope.
Von Miller played out of his fucking mind. And so it made sense that they gave him the MVP for the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He earned that. But I was happy for Peyton Manning to go out on a strong note for his retirement too. So
his team did. I don't think Peyton Manning went out on a strong note. Peyton Manning was pretty trashed into that season. They won the Super Bowl. I mean, but that was 100% because of the defense.
Like, 100% agree. I'm just happy.
And the Panthers also just fumbling the fucking bag hardcore.
Yeah, I mean, he got to go out with a ring. That's more what I mean. But yeah, I mean, obviously,
that too,
who would? No matter how bad you play, if you can go out like that, I think that's still better than what a lot of players get to do. So, all right. So the next thing I wanted to talk about, Jason, unless Ryan, do you have anything else you want to ask before we move on?
No. What is your favorite Broncos play in history?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Oh God,
because I can immediately think of my Seahawks favorite play in history, but not saying that yet.
Oh, save it for your episode, of course.
Exactly, yeah.
God, I mean, the strip sack on Cam Newton is up there pretty high, if not number one. That's the one that comes to mind first. But also there's the Mile High Miracle. I don't remember who we were playing against, but it was a playoff game, and it was the very first play of overtime, and we had a 75-yard touchdown on the first play. And that was also Tim Tebow that did that as well. So those two are definitely like 1 and 2. I don't know which one is which Probably the strip sack because it's more recent and more. It was in the Super Bowl, so I would probably say that one.
I mean, that's a good answer. I remember that one too. So, the well, let's do like a sort of breakdown of this last season. So, the biggest thing that when I'm like looking through y'all's, I'm just looking on the Wikipedia page just to kind of see a reference of a lot of things. Y'all had a lot of injuries and a lot of issues this last season. Mostly y'all lost a lot of people to injury, and then you also had a lot of people get released and stuff like that. But what I wanted to start with mostly was the draft. So obviously we did the draft spectacular last year, and you were there, but of course you didn't get to watch your team pick anybody. Y'all didn't have a first round pick. Y'all didn't pick until late in the second round, it looks like, when y'all took Marvin Mims at pick number 63. And obviously, so you didn't have a big class. But how do you feel about your draft class this last year in 2023?
Well, yeah, let me make it where I can see it a little bit better.
Yeah.
So Marvin Mims with our first pick last year, I really like him. He's been a big part of our special teams so far, and now that we've, lost some players, and this season he's going to get more reps this upcoming season, and I think there's a good chance he'll have a breakout season because he is incredibly fast. And I think he definitely played like the most out of any of our draft class from last year. Like Drew Sanders, Riley Moss, JL Skinner, all those guys. I don't even think JL Skinner and Alex Forsythe even played a snap. Drew Sanders and Riley Moss both played, but that was because they had to come in for injured players, so they didn't get a full season under their belt. And they were good, but nothing like, oh wow, this guy's going to be the next, big player for this team. If anybody did anything like that, it would be Marvin Mims, just because of how fast he is. So he's able to get separation very easily on his routes, and then, like I said, he's on our special teams, and he had a few really good like punt returns last year that set us up to not score touchdowns.
But, I mean, made for good plays, though. Yeah, I'm looking at this list, and the only name that I truly recognize is Marvin Mims, but that's also just because, I mean, he's a skill player, and, y'all mostly did defense other than that. You didn't really have that many picks, but...
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Ryan.
I like how you don't... I mean, this is kind of confusing in the sixth round, but not a single one of your picks was y'all actual pick. It was a trade. Every single one of the picks is like, from somebody else. I think it's just this is a messy fucking draft list right here.
Yeah. There's a lot of Seahawks on there too, because we know where that came from.
Devon Witherspoon right there. There's a Devon Witherspoon going up in number 5. Happy about
that. So the thing I'm looking at here, Alex Forsythe, do you think he'll be the starter for y'all this year for center? Or do you think it's going to be somebody else? Because I know y'all lost Lloyd Cushenberry.
Yeah, I really don't know. I think the staff, the coaches think so because they've kept him on the team this whole time. He's never been in jeopardy of being cut. I think we've signed a couple of offensive linemen that have played center in the past in the offseason so far, but I think if he is good enough, put him in there, because you've got an Oregon quarterback that he played with in college with Bo Nix now, and we have Troy Franklin at wide receiver who also played with him in college, and I feel like there could be a lot of, what is the word I'm trying to think of? They could be very cohesive together.
All right. Well, Another thing I forgot about, I'm looking back at this and, I'm just slowly remembering all these things that we had talked about during the season when we were recording the podcast as we normally do. Y'all had a couple of major suspensions this last year. So I forgot about Kareem Jackson. He got suspended twice for being just brutal on the field. Which we all know the NFL's a little bit soft now, but some of the stuff he did was really bad. And then y'all also, I didn't know that y'all had somebody that was y'all's draft, 4th round draft pick in the previous class, 2022, got suspended forever, basically, for gambling.
Yep,
so,
and he's still on our roster for some reason.
He's still what?
He's still on our roster.
Like,
right now, he is on our roster.
That's weird. Like they just still have him on the depth chart, like on the ESPN depth chart, or like just your okay.
Yeah, he is still on the depth chart and has not officially been released by the Broncos.
Huh. Well, so he's not playing, so it doesn't matter.
I think that his get lifted at some point, or they think that he is like the best player that they'll ever draft, and they want to make sure he's on the team when he gets unsuspended.
Yeah, I think the fact that it sounds like he specifically bet on the NFL and then it's indefinite. I think he's probably just done at this point because I think there's other players that bet on other sports and like did it in the facilities and shit like that, which are dumb rules. But they've let a lot of them come back. And remember last year they decrease some of the suspensions, but since we didn't ever hear anything, I guess that never changed for him. But all right, let's talk about the injuries. I just got to the injuries section. Were y'all the worst team in the NFL for injuries? I don't remember. It was up there. Y'all were probably in the top 5.
Yeah, we're up there. I don't know about the worst, but we're definitely up there.
But I'm just looking. This obviously breaks down throughout the season. I remember y'all had, where's his name? I'm looking for it. Oh, yeah, there he is. Tim Patrick. I remember Tim Patrick got hurt in the offseason and then was out the entire season. So let me ask you, do you think have y'all made any changes or anything to your strength and conditioning or anything like that you know of that could potentially make for a better season as far as injuries go? Are you still worried about that? Like, what's your thoughts on your team now?
I'm always worried about if somebody's going to get injured on my team. That's, a big piece of the team, just like any normal fan, I think at this point is worried about injuries with, dealing with being on turf every week now and stuff like that. So, but as far as like staff changes, I don't know of any, but that doesn't mean that they didn't happen because when the off season starts, we've seen it the past couple of years. It's a frenzy of, releasing coaches and firing coaches and hiring new ones and stuff like that. And I just eventually gave up on trying to keep up with who all we kept and who we fired and who we hired. So, that being said, the one name you did bring up with Tim Patrick, that was the second year in a row that he got hurt in camp and didn't play a snap. So he's on his last year of his contract with us now, and he restructured his contract so he's not getting paid as much. So he can still be on the team. Hopefully he makes it to the season because but him and Cortland Sutton are the 2 leaders on the offense now.
Maybe Marvin Mims. Maybe he'll be a leader because he's like, I guess he's going to be y'all's wide receiver 3 or at this point. I don't know.
He may be our wide receiver 2 at this point.
All right. So where's the here we go. This is what I was looking for. All right. Let's talk a little bit about your schedule this last season. The thing we mentioned earlier is y'all did have like a 5-game winning streak, but it did not start out that way. Y'all went 0-3, and then you finally got a win in week 4 against the Bears, and it was close with the Bears, and they were I mean, the Bears were definitely an up and down team as well this last year, but um, let's look back and think about what you were going through in that moment. Those like first 3 weeks. Were you already giving up on that season, or what was your feelings at that point, you think?
I mean, when we lost to who's that? The third game, the Dolphins. Is that who it is?
Yes.
At that point, we lost that game, and again, I have not been annoyed at the Dolphins. I've been annoyed at Gavin about it this whole time. It was because we were 0-3. I was like, okay, well, we can just tank and we'll go for a quarterback early. And then we wound up going down against the Bears by I think it was 24-0 or something like that. And then we came back and won the game. And I remember I sent a message in the group. I was like, I don't know if I need to be happy or sad right now because we won, yes, but we also just ruined our chances probably at getting the first pick if we wanted to get a good quarterback. And then the next week we played the Jets, and that was the revenge game against Nathaniel Hackett, and we lost. That might have been the most embarrassing game of the year for us, honestly. Not losing by 50 to the Dolphins, just because of how shitty both of the teams played. And then the Chiefs are the Chiefs. That one, I fully expected to lose that game. And then we get to the 5-game winning streak. In a 6-week stretch, we have our bye week in there.
Yeah, I wanted to talk a minute about the Dolphins game because we kind of talked about it a little bit in the podcast right around when it happened, and it's funny. There's been like a little bit of a rivalry between you and Gavin come up because of this, because he did become insufferable about it. I think, at least towards you, but the thing I'm thinking about is just. The Dolphins were really good this last year, and then they just crumbled, and, they had to have the perfect weather conditions and all that to be really good for whatever reason, which, Ryan's all about the weather. He can break that down. He probably knows exactly what the weather was that day.
We're adding weather stats this next season for our game pick.
Oh,
part of the...
You've got to. But, it's funny you mentioned it. I completely forgot about the New York Jets game, but that's another one that I think is a good pick because how mad did it make you that everyone was making it like Nathaniel Hackett's like true game to beat y'all and everything when really he didn't do shit? It wasn't him at all, right? I
mean, the fact that they gave him the game ball after that made it feel like it was a Make-A-Wish thing, to be honest. The offense didn't do anything before.
It was all defense from what I saw from the Jets.
So, it didn't make me mad, really. It just made me annoyed that they were playing it up so much. And, he's in a position that, some people can be horrible at, and you get away with it for years and years and years, like he's going to at the Jets.
If Aaron Rodgers is there, he's going to get away with it. Because for whatever reason, Aaron Rodgers is a big fan of Nathaniel Hackett. He's talked about it a lot. But, yeah. I mean, of course, Aaron Rodgers didn't even play in that game. So, and, yeah, the Jets are weird because their defense is so good. Their offense just hasn't figured it out yet. But, we'll see. We'll see what they look like this year. But the biggest thing, Week 8, you had to have been feeling really good because how long had it been since y'all had beat the Chiefs up to that point?
I think it was the year that we won the Super Bowl.
That is insane. You play them twice a year, and you hadn't beaten them since then.
It might have been the year after the Super Bowl, but still, that's not any better, really.
Yeah. I mean, that would have been, 2016?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was y'all's first time. Y'all in Week 8, y'all lost to him in Week 6, which I swear there were a lot of weird schedule things like this last year where it was like division rival and then you play somebody else and then you play them again. I know Titans had that. I know several teams had that. But y'all lost to the Chiefs the first time, week 6. But in the week 8, you played them again, and y'all smacked the shit out of them. I didn't remember it was this good of a game, 24-9.
Yep.
So I bet Mile High was going crazy at that game. I can't even imagine.
I wish I could have gone to that game. That's my first game at Mile High.
But yeah, so obviously you'll beat the Chiefs. So at this point in the season, do you think you were already like thinking maybe this is time we turn it around? Because obviously the Chiefs, even at that point, they had a little bit of a rough patch during the regular season, but they were still the Chiefs. People were still talking about them like they were the Chiefs. Did you think this was now y'all's chance to actually make the playoffs, or what were you going? What was going through your mind at this point?
I'll tell you, it didn't. I didn't think we could make the playoffs until after we won the next game against the Bills, because that put our record up to like what? That would have put us at 5-5.
That would have been 5-4. Yeah.
5-4.
Or 4-5. 4-5. If you're doing wins first.
Either way.
Yeah.
It put us close to breaking even on the season, and we were about halfway through the season, and that was a lot of teams were right at that mid-level with their record, and it was there was like a crazy number of teams that were all tied for the last seed in the playoffs, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe we do have a chance, depending on how we play against the Browns. When we played them, they, as we talked about throughout the whole season, had a crazy good defense, and then they got Joe Flacco out there, and their offense started going crazy with him. But then, as the record shows up there, we kind of lost the magic towards the end of the season. So my hopes were up for about a month, probably, and then the rest of the season, I was just kind of ready for next season.
So the fact that y'all went, I think I'm doing it right, 4-4 against playoff teams that ended up making the playoffs is pretty fucking good for what this record ended up being, or this year ended up being for y'all.
Yeah,
you were decent against good teams. You were 50%.
Yeah, and we were dog shit against teams we should have beat.
Yep, like so the fact you beat the Chiefs and the Bills and the Packers and the Browns on a stretch, and then lost to the fucking Commanders and the Jets earlier in the season, it's fucking crazy to me.
Go ahead.
And you lost to the Patriots, yeah.
Yeah, that might be the worst loss of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But you really look at this, the Dolphins game is really an outlier, because looking at a lot of these games, I mean, that's how it is in the NFL. Mostly it's one-score games. Y'all lost to the Raiders by 1 point. Y'all lost to the Commanders by 2 points. Again, the Dolphins game, bit of outlier, 50 points. But then, most of y'all's games were really, really close. Y'all lost to the Texans 17-22, so that was still a close game. The Lions is definitely a little bit of an outlier too. But you've got some, a lot of these, it's like we talked about with the Vikings like a couple years ago, that if you just slightly flip the scores, the one-score games make it go the other way, they suddenly have a terrible season. That's kind of what you would do here, except it would be probably an even better season for some of these losing games and keep the winning ones. But I'm actually surprised looking at this now. I don't think I realized that a lot of y'all's games really came down to the wire like this.
Yeah, it's stressful to be a Broncos fan.
All right. Do y'all have anything else you want to say about the regular season for 2023?
No, I will say this isn't directly about Broncos, but I just noticed something that we talked about this past season a lot. We actually did complete the circle of parity for all of our teams, actually. If you count preseason games.
Okay.
What I thought was just cool, because it was The Seahawks beat the Titans. Titans beat the Dolphins. Dolphins beat the Broncos. Broncos beat the Packers. Packers beat the Seahawks in preseason. So we actually did complete the circle of parity if we can include preseason as well. Sorry, I just saw that, and so I was,
It's crazy that happened though.
Yeah.
Just for all that fall that way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm also glad. I guess I'm thinking about it. Yeah, none of us are fans of division rivals of each other. Like we're all in like
division. No,
yeah.
no.
We all have different divisions.
And we're 2 and 3 in conferences too. Like 2 in the NFC, 3 in the AFC. So we're pretty well like spread out. I mean, except for you and Tyler have the same fucking team, of course.
Yeah, sorry.
Tisk.
Again, one day we'll have to do like a rock, paper, scissors to see who switches.
Yeah.
All right.
Tyler,
what do you go ahead, Jason.
Tyler can break the thing of not going for a division rival, and he'll be a Chiefs fan instead.
Oh God.
Oh God. No, it's y'all would that would fuck y'all over the most because I think out of any of us, y'all two for sure own the most Titans gear. Or not, I mean, obviously Titans gear, but like of your own team's gear.
Oh,
I think y'all two each own more than any of the rest of us combined.
Easily. I think a lot of that has to do with we can actually go to the games and stuff. So
Sure.
obviously we've both. I just bought some yesterday. I buy some stuff online, but a lot of times it's when I go to the games. I'm like, let's go in the pro shop for a little bit. You better believe I'm always walking out with something. So, all right. Let's see. Let's figure out where we're gonna go next. I think.
Let's go through every single game, Steven. Let's deep dive into every single game.
Look at this. Look at this, Ryan. It has the breakdown. Let me switch screens here. It has the weather on here.
Shit, game weather.
Let's see what it was for the Dolphins game. See, that's perfect. That's perfect weather for the Dolphins. 86 degrees. Come on. That's what they need right there. That's so funny.
Detailed.
Yeah, this is a full breakdown of everything. But let me scroll down and see if there's anything. Okay, so yeah, let's look at this for a second. So this is y'all's division standings. So of course, the Chiefs went 11-6, so they won. The Raiders and the Broncos both went 8-9, but I guess Raiders got 2 because of tiebreaker, I guess.
They beat us both times this past season, so.
And then obviously the Chargers were 5-12, so they were not very good. But I mean, looking at this, it's really not that bad. It's one of those things that and I guess even we're kind of guilty of this, like media is. You just look at the standings, the scores, and things like that, and you just think, this team's bad. But really, you break it down like this. Team wasn't as bad as most people thought, and
I mean, they're only 1 game behind the Seahawks, so I can't really say anything.
Yeah.
And they did better than y'all, or we all 8-9 too, Steven?
No, we were 6-11.
Yeah, so the Broncos were better than the Titans last year.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I knew that that was unrelated, but yeah, I mean, it was pretty close, and a lot of the teams that are in the playoffs are right around 500, usually on the plus side versus the minus side here. But that 8-9, I think, is what the Buccaneers record was when they were playing in the playoffs the year before. So that's still a potential playoff record too. So okay, you got anything else you want to add on this? Ready to go to 24?
No, we can move on.
All right, so let's talk about. You have something, Ryan?
No,
okay,
good.
All right, so now let's talk about this off season going into 2024. Y'all obviously lost a lot of people. Let's look at the free agent list. I just pulled it up. Can you see it okay, Jason?
If I make it bigger. All right, we're good.
All right. So looking at this list of free agent signings and of course people that you lost on this list, who are you most excited to see on your team now? And then obviously who are you least excited to lose?
I think as far as the guys that we re-signed, PJ Locke is up there, Jonas Griffith is up there, and Will Jordan Humphrey is up there just to have experience with Sean Payton.
Mm-hmm.
And then easily the player I'm most upset about losing is Lloyd Cushenberry. We only have 3 on here that have signed to other teams, so it'd be Lloyd Cushenberry, Josie Jewell, and then Jonathan Harris would be the order that I'd go in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lloyd Cushenberry signed with the Titans. That's why I know him. And then Jordan Harris signed with the Dolphins, and then Josie Jewell signed with the Panthers. And then y'all obviously re-signed a bunch of people. The main one that I notice on this is y'all re-signed Adam Troutman, y'all's tight end, and your kicker, Will Lutz. Y'all re-signed him. But this is what I wanted to talk about too. Departures. Y'all lost Justin Simmons. And
yep.
What are your thoughts on that? And where do you think he's going to go? I'm curious on that too.
My thoughts on it are he was probably asking too much for a potential extension, so we let him go. And that's probably why he still hasn't signed to a team. Is his asking price is probably too high for his age.
I agree.
And as far as where I think he'll go, I honestly have no idea. I would love for him to come back to Denver on a smaller contract, like a 2-year contract, but I don't know any front runners who need safeties anymore because most teams have already signed safeties. So I really don't know where he's going to go.
Y'all need a safety, Ryan?
We still don't really have any. We released both of our safeties, and we've signed one, I think, so far. I think did we draft one? I don't think we have an actual safeties room really that much.
Tell him to reach Justin Simmons.
That's the thing is I'm a little surprised Justin Simmons hasn't signed, and I agree with you. It's got to be the asking price or something because he's got quite a resume, so it makes sense for him to be somewhere. I didn't think he would be on the market nearly this long, but go ahead, Ryan.
I was wrong. I was kind of wrong. We did sign as a safety, but we're moving Julian Love to safety because he was a corner. But we're moving him to safety. He's phenomenal, so I'm fine with that. Never mind.
I know
we don't need him.
I know we need one because right now Amani Hooker's our safety, and then our other safety is Elijah Molden, who was a corner who became a safety. They changed his position, but I don't know. I think at this point though we're probably out of the Simmons sweepstakes, so I don't know. But I would have been happy to sign him. Obviously,
fun fact: Justin Simmons has intercepted Patrick Mahomes the most out of any player in NFL history.
I mean, it makes sense. Play him twice a year, and he's really good. And then we got, we're gonna talk about it. We got to talk about it. We got to talk a lot
Chris
here.
Hammer.
Russell Wilson. I was talking about Russell Wilson. All right. Lay it all out. What are your thoughts on Russell Wilson and his time at the Broncos in whole? What are your personal thoughts?
Shitty.
See, I'm kind of against you on that, to be honest, man.
No. Jason definitely has the Bronco team blinders, and he's sticking up for Sean Payton and his staff, which I fully understand. It's your team, and it's your friend, the foundation. But I feel like majority of non-Broncos fans think the Broncos did Russell Wilson dirty.
I think the whole situation with Russell Wilson was more of, I feel like, me personally, it was more of an off-field thing. But because him having his own office and shit like that, and I'm kind of glad Sean Payton came in here was like, we're not doing that. And I kind of appreciate Sean Payton for things like that. But I don't know. It's looking at his. I mean, he had a decent touchdown to interception ratio, right? It was like 8 interceptions, 20 something touchdowns. It wasn't bad compared to some other quarterbacks, but
that those stats were fine, but it was all of the sacks that he was taking that he didn't need to take and stuff like that. Because like I've seen the like super advanced stats. It's like Russell Wilson was responsible for like 80% of the sacks that he got this past season, and the other 20% were the offensive line's fault. So all those times that he got sacked on third downs and stuff that could have been avoided, that would have gotten us, potentially a first down or kept us in field goal range and changed the course of the game. He panicked way too fast.
I mean, I'll agree with that because I do think y'all's offensive line was pretty decent. So it's not like his pocket was really crumbling a lot. It did seem like there were a lot of times he did panic. So I give you credit there from the games that I watched. Of course, you probably watched more of them than I did, obviously. So, go ahead, Ron.
I'll go ahead and tell you, it's not. I wouldn't say it's Russell Wilson. As probably watched Russell Wilson for years, not him panicking, more him being old and not being able to scramble as well as he used to. Because that's always been Russell Wilson. As a Seahawks fan, Russell Wilson spends about half a second in the pocket and then he starts scrambling immediately. That is just how Russell Wilson plays the game of football.
Yeah, he likes
he's just old now.
That sounds like hero ball a little bit too. Like he's always trying to make something out of nothing, I guess.
And I mean, he did all the fucking time when he was young. Like he was phenomenal. That was like his he was the best in the league at scrambling and making shit out of like a collapsing pocket. But I think he's just gotten old now. And so yeah, for sure he's not as good as he was in the Seahawks. 100%. But
so then my follow-up question with Russell Wilson is, do you think he will be the starter for the Steelers, or do you think it'll be Justin Fields?
He probably will be the starter just so they can get the ratings up when we play the Steelers in week 2. So
interesting.
Russell Wilson in Denver in week 2.
That's not like a primetime game or anything, is it?
I don't think so. I think we only have like 2 or 3 primetime games this year, and I think they're middle to late season, as I think.
Mm-hmm.
I know the Saints game is a Thursday night game. Or no, it might be a Sunday night game. I know that was primetime regardless. And I don't remember what the other 2 games are.
It's not primetime. It's a 3:00 game, the Denver Steelers game.
Okay, there you go.
Still, if it's a 3:00 game, it'll be easier to watch. There won't be as many games on at the same time. For our Sunday ticket people out there, of course, that will be me once again. But yeah, I don't know, the whole situation with Russell Wilson, I'm on the fence about it because, like, looking at it, comparing to other things, like as far as quarterbacks go, he wasn't terrible, but yeah, I know there was a lot of you watching your own team and seeing what was around him and just it's still not working for whatever reason. So I get that, but
I think it's I sure think Russell Wilson's going to start for the Steelers, and I think it's going to be a good telling this next season is if he does well under the Steelers, or if he does, the same sort of discord that happened with the Broncos happened with the Steelers with Russell Wilson, of if it was the Broncos or if it was Russell Wilson, really. We're going to be able to tell this year, I feel. So
I just know if he balls out though, like, God, the Broncos fans, y'all are going to be y'all are going to be so fucking mad, especially because the biggest thing, and this is where I feel like the Broncos kind of got Russell Wilson did the Broncos a little dirty, was taking a vet minimum deal, which it made sense to do this because, he's already getting paid regardless by the Broncos. But he took like a vet minimum deal with the Steelers so that they have more money to spend in other places, of course. So he's getting I think it's 1.2 mil or something like that from them, plus the money he's making for the contract that he had with the Broncos, all that dead cap, which y'all are now having to deal with. What was it, $85 million, something like that?
Something like that. I mean, we were still fine on the salary cap from all the cuts that we made and stuff of, the players that didn't get to play anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So our salary cap never went negative, which is something that most other teams can't say. So,
well, and you're going to eat it this year, and then y'all are eating it next year, right? And then after that, it's going to be pretty much off the books. So,
yeah, and we're taking, as far as I know, we're taking the bigger hit this year. So next year we won't take as big of a hit.
Yeah, here's the 2026, I guess. All that free money. What?
Here's to 2033.
2033. Why 2033?
I'm calling it here. Denver's winning the Super Bowl 2033.
Right.
All right.
And, before we move on, Stephen, or on this screen right here, how are you feeling about Calvin Throckmorton going to the Broncos from the Titans?
I mean, he's got a cool name.
I don't even know who that is.
I don't know who that is.
I know it was like he was coming from the Titans, so maybe Steve would know who it was.
I don't. He must have been. Honestly, he must have been on our practice squad or something.
The only player on that entire list of people that we signed that I know is Josh Reynolds.
You don't know Angelo Blackson?
Nope.
I know Angelo Blackson.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Who is Angelo Blackson?
I mean, he was the defensive for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, I can't really. I mean, up there, so it's not like I can prove that.
It's just like, before. Were you watching Jags games and you're like,
no,
yeah?
I just knew he was a Jag. I don't know why.
All right.
How many tackles did he have?
I don't know that. Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's word of mouth because the information is on the screen. But I knew that he was.
It's a name that jumped out. I got you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I take back what I said. I do know another name on that list, being Sam Mustipher. I do know that name.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, let's look at y'all's draft for this year. So obviously, y'all went quarterback in the first round. A bunch of them went off the board. One that surprised all of us with the Falcons, I think. But do you think Bo Nix was always the plan for the Broncos?
Sean Payton said in an interview that it was the plan the entire time, and they scared the
Vikings
into getting J.J. McCarthy. They called them and said, hey, if you don't trade up, we're taking your guy, and we're going to get in front of you. So they made the Vikings trade up to get J.J. McCarthy, and apparently on their, board in the draft room, they had the quarterbacks listed up there in just a random order to throw everybody off. But Bo Nix was the pick from the very beginning, the whole time. So,
do you believe Sean Payton in that? Do you believe that he really was like, oh yeah, we totally tricked the Vikings?
Honestly, kind of, because why would the Vikings trade up one spot?
It was weird. It was weird, yeah.
So. Honestly, yeah, I think so. Because we've seen stuff like that happen in the past. So I think it was definitely a hey, we're going to take your guy. And they got scared and said, okay, well, we're going to, trade up anyway and make sure we get who we want. And then as far as was he telling the truth of this was our guy the whole time? I think so, just based off of how Bo Nix plays and how Sean Payton coaches. I think that it was definitely, if he wasn't number one, he was probably number two.
Yeah.
Because we knew the whole time we weren't going to trade all the way up to 1, 2, 3, anywhere up there to get one of the, Caleb Williams, Drake May, or Jaden Daniels. So.
Yeah, so Bo Nix was technically what? He was the fifth?
Sixth.
Oh, he was the sixth quarterback. Yeah, that's right.
Penix got picked early.
That's right. So he was the sixth quarterback taken, and y'all were picking at 12, which is insane. But, yeah.
Yep.
And then, obviously, y'all, the other big pick, which obviously the next pick was in the third round, Jonah Ellis. Is that how you say it? I don't actually know.
Yeah, it's Jonah. He, I haven't watched a lot of stuff on him, but what I've seen, he's looked pretty good. So.
But I think what y'all did in the fourth round was amazing. And this is, I remember when I was watching the draft at home, I think I messaged you and was like, that was such a great pick because they got Troy Franklin, wide receiver out of Oregon, Bo Nix's teammate. So you've got two guys that are already established with each other on the Broncos now. So I think that was probably, in my opinion, I think that was the best move y'all made in this draft, was taking Troy Franklin in the 4th round. Have you watched anything on him? Seen anything in the mini camp or anything like that?
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of videos and stuff from mini camp of him and Bo Nix. Just see they just have a connection, and if they're able to translate that into a actual game, then I think we'll be okay. I still, not getting my hopes up too high, but my expectations have gotten a little bit better as I've watched more of the rookie camp and stuff like that. So I'm excited. I think he has a chance to be a really good receiver. So,
all right. And then so a lot of weird trades and everything on here again, like we were talking about. But y'all took a corner and a running back in the 5th round. Y'all took another wide receiver in the 7th round. Must be nice taking more than one wide receiver. I wish I knew what that was like. And then a center in late in the 7th round.
Yeah,
so,
do me a solid, Steven, and look up a picture of our running back. Tell me that he won't run somebody over.
God, if I can even spell that. Hold on. Okay.
Oh.
Let's go.
Beefy fellow right there.
He is fucking massive.
Hell yeah.
He is a big boy. He is for sure going to make our team just based off of how big he is.
Look at that fucking tank top picture, Steven. The green shirt.
This one?
That one, yeah. There we go.
Dude.
Jesus Christ.
I love this pixelated image of him. It's really great. But yeah,
he's Irish too.
That dude's jacked. Look at him.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm just as excited for him as I am for Bo Nix and Troy Franklin almost, because he's so massive, and I've seen rookie camp that I'm excited to see him play. He's obviously not going to be RB1 with us having Javonte Williams, but he more than likely will get a decent number of touches.
Do you think Javonte Williams is more? They actually use him more in like the receiving game, or is he still more just run down the middle kind of guy? Because I don't know if I've watched a lot of Javonte Williams.
I think he's good for running the ball. He's really good at breaking tackles. That's like what he's known for.
Yeah.
I mean, a few years ago, he was number 1 in the league in broken tackles. So,
well, because I'm thinking like more and more teams are running 2 running backs like basically back and forth, having one more of like the receiving type back and the other one more of in like short screens and stuff like that, and then there's another one that's more of a power back. So
here's where Javonte Williams will be our guy that just runs the ball up the middle. Where it's 1st and 10, we're trying to get the 3 or 4 yards on first down like normal. Then we have this guy, I don't know how to say his name, Audric Estime or something like that.
That would be my guess, yeah.
He's going to be our power back who's going to try and get us first downs on like 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 1. And then we'll have Jaleel McLaughlin, I think, who will be our receiving back because he is incredibly fast.
Okay.
I think we all going to do is you're going to put Javonte Williams on Audric Estime's shoulders. And they're going to both lean forward and do a double truck motion. And that way they have double the power to go forward.
I mean, I don't think that's legal, but that would be cool.
Sean Payton, you heard it here.
Double truck move. You're welcome.
Okay. Well, the other thing I noticed here is y'all took another center in the late rounds. Y'all did that last year, and then y'all did that again this year. So y'all got somebody lined up to play center at least, even though y'all lost Lloyd Cushenberry. But
I don't think that guy's gonna make the 53-man roster though.
The Nick Gargiulo.
Yeah. In the 53-man roster. He may be in the squad, but he's not going to make the roster.
Well, you need a backup center, don't you?
There probably still is already one, though, right?
Do what?
There probably already is one, right? Y'all probably already have at least, as of right now, y'all probably have like 4 or 5 centers on your roster,
probably.
And then you'll cut them down. Yeah. Okay. Well, so let's get it right now. Obviously, you said your record prediction right now is 5-12 for this season.
Somewhere like that. If you can pull up the schedule, I'll go game by game and tell you what I think the result will be.
I think that's on here. Hold on, give me 1 second.
There you go. Right
there we go. All right.
Oh, I forgot we fucking start off the season together. Look at that.
Again.
Yep.
All right. I've got it pulled up where the audience can see it as well. So let's break it down. What are you thinking?
All right. At the Seahawks, I think we'll lose that game. The Seahawks are just a better team.
Sorry.
What are you doing, Steven?
I don't know. I'm struggling. Let's go ahead.
Yeah, at the Seahawks. The Seahawks are just a better team, and it's in Seattle. It's Bo Nix's very first NFL game. I expect him to struggle for a few games to get used to, playing in the NFL. So Seahawks, I think, will win that game. The Steelers, I want, obviously, to say we're going to win that game because I would love for us to beat Russell Wilson. But I'm going to say that one is also a loss, just from experience. At the Buccaneers, I feel like we're going to somehow win that game. I don't know how. We shouldn't win that game, but I feel like we will somehow.
Maybe Baker Mayfield takes a step back, not having Dave Canales anymore.
Maybe. At the Jets is an interesting one because they should have Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to say a win against the Jets.
A little revenge game from last year.
And then I'm going to say a loss to the Raiders, a loss to the Chargers, a loss to the Saints, a win against the Panthers, 3 losses in a row to the Ravens, Chiefs, and Falcons, a win against the Raiders.
So you think y'all are going to win in each other's stadiums?
Yeah.
Okay.
It can happen.
Yeah.
A loss against the Browns, and then we have our bye week super late in the season. Not a big fan of that. Colts is another interesting one because Anthony Richardson was out most of the season last year, so we don't really know what he's going to look like.
If he's even playing at this point in the season, too.
Yeah. And let's see. I've said we win 1, 2,
4,
3, 4 games so far.
Yep. Keeping up with it.
I'll say a win against the Colts, a win against the Chargers, and then back-to-back losses to end the season to the Bengals and the Chiefs.
6-11.
I feel like that's fairly realistic.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But it's the thing of we just, like I said, we just really don't know what a lot of these teams will look like. There's the few ones that it'd be weird to see anything different than they normally are. But,
And there's a lot of games in there that could flip-flop. Instead of us winning, we lose, or instead of us losing, we win, like the Steelers, the Jets, the Raiders, the Saints, all like those teams. We could, instead of winning or losing, it could go the other way. And then, there's some games in there that I'm like, yeah, we don't have a chance to win the game. So, I'm just ready for football season to start.
Me too. All right. Well, do you have any closing thoughts? We've been going probably about 50 minutes or so.
Well, we can. Do you want to bring up something that's not Broncos related that happened this past week that was pretty big?
You talking about Justin Jefferson?
I am.
What happened?
Whew. Money.
Oh yeah, that thing, yeah.
Yeah, we can sort of mention it. Obviously, we're not planning on doing like an actual recording for probably a week or so because of this, but yeah, he's getting what, 140 million for 4 years, so basically 35 million a year. I think 110 million of it, I'm going off of memory, so I might be wrong here. 110 million of it, I think, is guaranteed. So he just reset the wide receiver market. So, well, let's take a minute. Yeah. Who do y'all think is the next person in line to get a big pay raise? Is it Tua? Or is it another wide receiver?
An extension, I think.
So what?
I think Tua just signed an extension.
Oh, I think he did. That's right. I forgot. I know they were talking about it a lot, but yeah, I can't imagine can y'all just imagine making that kind of money every year?
No, I can't. I literally can't imagine. I don't know what I would do with it.
I'm not gonna make that much money in my entire life. So
yeah.
Just imagine being like related to Justin Jefferson and just being like, all right. If I need a loan on a house, he's the guy I'll reach out to.
Pocket change for him.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll just buy you one. That's crazy. But obviously the offseason's been insane, and I feel like, I mean, obviously we've been doing this podcast for like 3 years now. I feel like it's been crazier every year. It just there's always something crazier happening every year. So that's why we love football, though. Keeps things interesting. And obviously this podcast has made it where we keep up with a lot more than we used to. Mm-hmm. A lot more of the off-season type stuff. And it makes it more exciting, I think.
Absolutely it does.
Yeah, I think we've all grown as fans of our teams, and at least learning a lot more about our friends' teams, so we can shit on them and make fun of them, or root for them too. Whatever, it depends. Anyway, any closing thoughts, Jason? You got anything else you want to say about the Broncos?
I don't think so. I'm just, like I said, I'm ready for the season to start, to see how things go and see where our rookie class and our sophomore class lead us, because that's what our team is mostly made up of at this point. As far as skill positions go, is they're all fairly young at this point. So I'm excited to see what they bring to the table, and if they're going to actually be the future of the team, or if they're just going to be fillers.
All right. Well, Ryan, would you like to do the honors and take us out of here, buddy?
Sure. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into this special episode of Always Out of Market podcast, where we're grilling our little Pinksy boy. Pinksy boy? I don't know. That's your new name. Jason. If you're a Broncos fan, hopefully y'all won't have as much of a miserable year. Maybe you'll get a winning season again. Who knows?
We're rooting for you.
You can't go an entire decade without a winning season. That can't happen. So we'll see. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Subscribe, like, comment. Tell your friends about us. Bye. Hands in podcast. 3, 2, 1. Podcast.